Good morning. My name is Barclay Radebaugh. We are super excited that you have joined us this morning. We are in for a blessing for sure today. Today is session 6 of our Nations of Coaches preseason growth series. And this morning we are joined by Alabama assistant coach Ryan Pannone. We are super excited about this highly anticipated time with Coach Pannone. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
We are so glad that you are here. Wife, Sarah, 3 children, Raylan, Dahlia, and Trajan. Congratulations on a great run to the Final Four. I know coaches don't want to talk about last year. You're already into this year. Thank you for being with us. We're really excited. This has been a highly anticipated time. So many coaches have communicated that they're excited to learn from you. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
I got a text yesterday. Who is this coach? I know Ryan well. I hired him as my assistant coach when I was a head coach in the G League. He is a tremendous person. I really love him and his family.
Coach Bill Peterson.
Yeah, that's right. Coach, you've had a wealth of experiences. It's been so interesting. You have coached in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, the G League, the NBA, JUCO high school, and now Power 5. What have those experiences, what have you taken from those experiences that have helped you experience and produce the success that you're having at Alabama now?
Well, I think from a basketball standpoint, the way that the game is played and working for really good head coaches that see the game a different way. I've been fortunate to work for really good coaches, and they all had different philosophies and different approaches. I think from a personal standpoint, it's learning. Everyone has their own path. And I think as young coaches, we get focused on why not me? Why is he here? Why am I not? Why did he get this job? Why didn't I get this job? And, really learning that the path that you're on is the path that God has put you on, and to enjoy it, because I can look back at my career now. I'm very fortunate, and it's taken me all over the world, and I've had unbelievable, unique experiences that most people just never get. And I think those kind of continue to help serve, especially as you're trying to serve young men and help them through aspects of their life that they're now struggling with, because our players go through the same thing.
Coach, a lot of time in professional basketball, Europe, Asia, Middle East, NBA, G League. What have you taken from those experiences, and what have you learned that has helped you form your offensive strategy and philosophy that you have today?
Well, my own personal offensive philosophy is it's been, even when I was a head coach in Europe and a head coach in the G League, what I love about the NBA and what I love about European basketball. And I think if you're taking a look at the NBA, obviously it's analytically driven, the pace at which it plays at, the value of threes, the conceptual offense that it plays at. And then I think from a European standpoint, the tactical approach. To me, the European game is it's the most advanced game, most tactical game in the world in terms of how you approach each game. Part of that is because if you lose 3 games in a row, you're going to get fired. And so you coach every game like it's an NCAA tournament game or the NBA playoffs. That's your mindset, because you never know when you're going to get fired. And so you're trying to find each edge through the course of each game. And then I think through each country, you figure out that for most part, people are the same in terms of the more you love the person, the harder you can coach the player. And it doesn't matter. I've been in China where the players don't even speak English. If you can figure out how to connect them and have them feel that you care about them, you can usually coach them all pretty hard. And it doesn't matter from high school to junior college. NBA guys are the same way. Like, people want to know you authentically invested in them as a human being. And then you can coach them pretty hard. They're going to respond to you.
Yeah. What are 3 or 4 things that you know today that you didn't know when you first started?
I think it's really important to not get discouraged. it's like obviously coaching is very difficult, and you're going to have moments that you lost out on a job, you didn't get a job. Obviously, some coaches may be in a position where they got fired, whether it's not their fault. And I think if you can stay resilient and if you can stay positive and keep figuring out how to impact people, you'll be in a good position mentally. And I think we've all been there, right? Where we've been discouraged for whatever reason. The value of building relationships.
Yeah.
Every job that I've ever gotten has been off building relationships and networking and investing in that. I think that there's, when people talk about building their career, to me, I think in this order goes things, and it's going to seem a little bit backwards. One, your network is your net worth. People typically hire people that they know. They hire someone recommended by somebody that they know. So the more people that you can build relationships, or the more people that could hire you or recommend you to be hired. And figuring out how to do that as a younger coach coming up, like most people wouldn't talk to me. Most people wouldn't respond to me. They blew me off because I wasn't important enough for their time. Everyone's always trying to build a relationship with somebody that's above them that they think could hire them instead of just being a good person. So I think you have to figure out how do you serve people and how do you bring value to a relationship. Two would be being a really good person. At the end of
Mm.
the day, there's people that aren't necessarily great basketball coaches that are at a high level of performance in our society, because I know a lot of people and they're really good people. People just want good people around. When people talk about building culture, right, it's a buzzword. You build culture with good human beings. Everything's easier with good people, and then really study the game. And I think investing in your craft and trying to become an expert in your field.
Coach, who have been the influencers in your career? Who, when you think back, um, who have been the two or three folks that have influenced you and have helped you to get where you are today?
When I was a young coach, specifically, David Thorpe, who's the best player development guy I've ever seen. I started working with him at 20. He was kind of the first guy to really work with NBA players full time throughout the season as a consultant. And I started working with guys for the draft with him at 20. And he was not just a great mentor to me in that he gave me an opportunity. He taught me how do I dress? What do I look like? How do I act? How do I respond? How to use my voice? When am I overcoaching? When am I not overcoaching? He also
Mm.
created an environment for growth. He let me do a lot of coaching, and then he would correct me. And he also gave me a lot of credit when he thought I did something well. And then he told me the truth. And I think that's really important as a young coach. Be willing to listen to the truth and then have a mentor that will tell you the truth. And
Mm.
it's just like
Wow.
the players, right? Like at the end of the day, players need to hear the truth. But they have to be willing to listen to the truth. And a lot of young coaches don't want to hear the truth. Stan Jones, he was at Florida State. Before I ever had a good player as a high school coach, I used to pepper this guy with questions, and I
Okay.
responded to everything. I mean, it could be we're getting ready to play a team that plays 1-3-1. Coach, you have a good 1-3-1 play. Let me fax it to you. So I got really lucky with Stan Jones and Kevin Sutton. Uh,
Ah,
I Kevin Sutton to this day maybe runs the best practice I've ever seen. The guy's incredible. The difference between the Danny Hurley's, Nate Oates of the world is opportunity and chance. That guy just he never got it, but he was an incredible coach. And I wanted my high school program to be Montverde Academy. He used to let me come up and bring my team, watch him practice when we played him during the season. And we beat them one year. They were number one in the country and undefeated. And actually, my freshman forgot our practice jerseys. So I had to walk into this gym who I've watched this guy practice. We had no game jerseys. He gives us his practice jerseys, and we're up like 13 with 8 seconds to go. He calls a timeout. I tell my players, like, if you celebrate, I will run you to death. You better act like you lost because, like, I'm scared. And we finished the game. My players are celebrating in the locker room, jumping up and down, not saying a word. I've got to give him his practice jerseys. So I have to walk into Kevin Sutton's office. I just ruined his undefeated season. And he looks at me and goes, "Why do you look like your dog died?" I was like, "Coach, I don't know how to act. And he's like, we're boys. He's like, this is what we've been talking about. This is how you build your high school program. Then he took me to the Final Four the next year and he introduced me to every major shoe company saying, like, this is the up and coming high school coach. So those three men were,
Wow.
they owed me nothing and they gave me everything. And
Mm.
then throughout my career, all the head coaches that hired me, right? Like, I think getting a job is a blessing. And I've had some really, really, really successful head coaches. I think anytime you're being hired as an assistant coach, somebody's betting their job on you, right? Like Nate Oates is
Mm.
betting his job on me, and Willie Green was betting his job on me, and Simone Piangiani and Odette Katesh and Simon Cody and Bill Peterson. And so, uh, having that approach, I think is super important to understand, that they've impacted me.
Yes. Wow. I love that. I love that. Um, Everybody wants to learn from you offensively. Just quickly, coach, 3 or 4 personal disciplines that you do every day that have helped you grow professionally. What are they?
Well, I think for us as coaches, our personal is intertwined with professional. I've never seen a player perform his best without feeling joy and love and positivity and in a good place mentally. And I think a lot of that comes to our personal approach. And I think us as coaches, our spouses, their job is incredibly difficult. They
Mm.
get no recognition. And so every day I try to have the fall. I never let you see the bags in my eyes. Like I've got a rule. I never let my players see me tired. I never let my kids see me tired. It's a rule. I will fake the energy around my kids at all time.
Mm.
It's not their fault I'm in this profession. It's not their fault I'm never home. So when I am home, I've got to be all locked in on them. I got to put the phone away. I got to be engaging. I got to play. Um, Trying to recognize how difficult it is for my wife.
Mm.
She didn't choose this profession, and she's been incredible. I would not be where I'm at
Mm.
professionally without her support and without
Amen.
what she's sacrificed.
Yes.
Um, I try to study film every day. I try to study the different ATOs, different situations outside of what we do. I think us as coaches, we get on our players about get in there, take 500 shots, and then we don't actually do anything to become better. So I try to study a couple NBA teams every day, all their offense, and then as many different ATO situations as possible. And then it's new for me because I think it's important as I've gotten older. I've done a terrible job my whole life, um, trying to be better about nutrition and working out.
Yeah.
Because I mean that the end of the day, if your home life is good and if you're feeling good, you're going to be able to perform your best as a coach. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's how we do the best of our job. Is being able to approach each day the same way we expect athletes with their nutrition, their sleep, their mental health, the mindset that they're approaching the game with.
Yeah, no doubt. I love how you talk about Sarah there. My wife, Hope, is amazing, and coaches' wives are amazing. We have lots of resources for coaches' wives at Nations of Coaches. And those of you that are watching, if you jump on our website, there's lots of opportunities for wives in our ministry. All right, Coach, it's all yours. I'm super excited. We have a record crowd on this morning to listen to you. And it's all yours. You take the screen and teach us Alabama offense.
Okay, first off, I just want to start. I put my email in the group chat and my phone number. If anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out. Leave a voice message if you call. If I happen to not respond, it's an accident. Just please send another text or another email if there's anything I can do to help. What I'm going to go through today is some of the parts of the Alabama offense. I'm going to try to explain a lot of stuff that we do and why we do it, but I'm also going to focus on specific points of it. And so, some numbers from Alabama's offense in the 5 years that coach has been here. We led the country in scoring last year, averaged almost 9 more points a game than previous teams. The offensive efficiency was second in the country. We were number one in the country to the last 4 or 5 games. When Latrell Wrightsell got hurt, was the fourth most efficient player in the country. Effective field goal percentage went up. 3-point percentage went up. 2-point percentage went up. Turnovers per game went down, which I think is a really key stat, because I think that's in terms of trying to create efficient offense. If you're going to play as fast as we play, people say, oh, you guys turn the ball over, you play super fast, you take crazy shots. And it's not really how we play. So this is a little bit deep dive into what our philosophy is overall, and really how we play within the half court. So if we're talking about offensive philosophy. Okay, offensive philosophy as a whole is advantage offense. And for me, people use a formula for offense as offensive spacing, and spacing is offense. And to me, it's a little bit more complicated. For me, the offensive formula is race plus space plus pace plus ball movement plus player movement plus rim pressure plus decision making. And I know it seems complicated, but I'm going to kind of explain it, right? We want to race the ball up the floor. Okay, and we'll get to some of the rules on that. We want to have great spacing. When we get in the half court, we want to play with pace. And that pace is ball movement and player movement. To me, the hardest thing to guard in basketball is ball movement and player movement. Okay, then we want to create rim pressure within our offense. Okay, and then we got to have great decisions, because if we do all that and we don't make a great decision, it's going to be a turnover or a poor shot. Advantage offense creates efficient outcomes. Okay, efficient outcomes are free throws, advantage layups, and advantage threes. People say all the time, we want to hunt free throws, layups, and threes. Not all layups are good. Not all threes are good. And we want to hunt advantage layups and advantage threes. There's a very big difference. If you're shooting a fully contested shot at the rim on a rim protector or a 7-footer, it's not a great shot. And that happened when Florida beat us last year. We kept trying to shoot at the rim on really good rim protection, and they beat us twice. And those weren't great shots, even though we got to the rim. And then advantage offense, all efficient outcomes, okay, which are free throws, layups, and threes, are derived solely from one aspect in offense, and that's rim pressure. Okay, you need spacing, rim pressure, and decision making, which oftentimes, especially a lot of rim decisions, to create an advantage, keep the advantage, and use the advantage. But for us, this was like my big rule in the G League. Everywhere I've kind of coached, high school and G League and junior college, even some parts of Europe, right? Like everyone thinks they're going to score their way out, so everyone wants to put up stats. So it's like, for me as a head coach in the G League, I used to have a rule that if two got on the ball and you didn't get off it, it was an automatic sub. That was like a non-negotiable. And that really promotes ball movement, right? And then what possessions create rim pressure within the college game? Okay, so within college basketball as a whole last year, transition created a foul rate of 15.2%, on-ball drives 14.1, closeout 0.5 drives 13.9, cuts and slips. If you take a look at like Indiana State last year, Josh Schertz, now it's St. Louis. Obviously, they're maybe the best cutting team in the country, but the foul rate gets really high on cuts. Pick and rolls, DHOs are 10.5%. Okay, and 9.1. Off-ball screens, 7.2. Post-ups, 15.2. Keeps, which I'll explain later. There's no actual numbers for that. And then offensive rebounds. So as you're trying to create efficient offense, you've got to figure out with your roster, how do you create rim pressure with the roster that you have? If you've got great off the bounce guys, right, it might be on ball drives, might be a little bit more attacking closeouts. If you don't, it might be a little bit more cutting, right, and offensive rebound. So I think when you're trying to reverse engineer your offense, right, so it's like, what are the end of the day the outcomes? How do you generate these free throws, layups, and threes within the personnel that you have? You have to figure out with the personnel that you have, how can you best create rim pressure within the team that you have? And it's difficult to kind of master all of these. Obviously, at Alabama, we do not master post-ups at all. But it's a mindset of those are kind of like your ways to really create rim pressure, which creates the efficient outcomes. Okay. Okay, and then pressure offense. the mindset that we have at Alabama is pressure offense. I think if you think of pressure defensive teams, right, people are going to have the mentality that you press and you trap and you provide this on-ball pressure to burst pipes, right? Like that's the goal. And your goal is to wear them down in the third quarter and the fourth quarter or the second half. And that's when they start making mistakes and missing layups defensively and turning the ball over. And so when people think pressure, they think defense. For me, I think offense, right? Like our offense is pressure offense. We are going to put so much pressure on your defense with how we play within transition. Okay. And the goal is to get the ball inbounded in 1 second or less. Okay. We want to emphasize guard defensive rebounding and bust out dribbles with our bigs. We want the ball to the opposite 3-point line in 3 seconds. We don't care how you get there. You could dribble it, kick ahead, kick across. We love all of it. Prefer kick aheads and kick across. But as long as the ball is there in 3 seconds, we've put extreme pressure on your defense. And the outcome of that is this. Your transition defense has to be perfect 10 out of 10 times, which isn't going to happen. And especially by the third and the fourth quarter, we're going to break you. And that's the mentality. We are going to put so much pressure on your defense, you will burst. And I think if you take a look at the tournament run, and this is one thing I love about Coach Oates, this guy's an incredible coach. It's not by chance that Nate Oates wins. It is a probability that Nate Oates will win. Wherever he goes, he will exceed expectations. And the way that he plays, the mentality he has, the confidence he gives guys. And if you look at our tournament run, we kept putting pressure on teams, pressure offense. And in the second half, team wouldn't get back, banging a three. They'd get back another 2 possessions, wouldn't get back, banging a three, get a layup, right? And we just apply so much pressure, we end up bursting those pipes. And so that's the mentality. We talk about it all the time. We run pressure offense. And it's not just within transition, right? It's how we want to play within the half court. Because if we can get the ball to the 3-point line in 3 seconds, yes, the byproduct, there are some early open threes and some early layups, but we're going to create mismatches. Your 5 is going to be on Mark Sears. You're going to have 5 defenders back, but they're not loaded to the gaps. They haven't shrunk the floor yet, or they're not communicating, or they're back and they still give up an open 3, even though 5 guys are back, right? And then we want to keep the pressure on the defense by getting into a trigger within 6 seconds. And then we never want to let the shell get set. Once the trigger is created, we do not want to stop the flow of our offense. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is what I think was really good. I'm going to kind of let this play is our flow concepts, right? And so these are possible flow concepts. Within the half court, we play very conceptual. We play random offense, random with purpose, random with spacing, random with unselfishness. It's got to be those 3 things. And so we're trying to teach our guys how to play with spatial awareness, how to play with shared cognition, right? One of the hallmarks of expert teams is shared cognition. 5 guys on the same page. We only call set plays on dead balls, okay, because we want to play faster. So we've got some triggers, and then we are into our conceptual offense, which we're trying to teach our guys how to play after the play, how to create an advantage, keep the advantage, and use the advantage. And then if we happen to lose that advantage, how do we recreate it? Okay, and these are some possible flow concepts that you can play out of. And I'm going to let some video play of last year's season, and then I'm going to show you some practice film of this year and then how we build it. And then within our team, right, trying to get our guys to understand in terms of our offense, we want guys thinking about their creators, right? Like Mark Sears is a creator. Who is our spacers? Kind of like a Chris Youngblood. Who is our connectors, right? Like Grant Nelson, Aiden Sherrill, Cliff, right? Like we want guys thinking about that. So like we don't use the term non-shooters. Anyone that's not really a great shooter or maybe a big that's a screener, he's a connector. His job is to connect our offense, right? So like if we've got a guard ISOing, it's our big's fault. He didn't get up to connect the offense. He let the guard ISO. Right? Like we're not trying to ISO at any time. So I'm going to let some clips play of last year. So this would be our uphill tosses, right? So we'll put our 5s or connectors out in the corner. and we're going to try to play through uphill tosses. Like this would be a set call off a dead ball. Okay, we don't have anything. We're going to find our connector. And so if you take a look at the way teams guard connectors, right, they're just going to sit in the paint because he's a non-shooter, which kind of frees them up to get to uphill tosses and uphill DHOs, off-ball screens. And so these are some of our flow offensive clips that we really try to play out of. And then as we're building this, and I'm going to spend time after this year's film, this would be a get for us, finding transition. We try to get to some hit and gets, hit and splits. I'll show some practice film, kind of how we try to build our conceptual offense, right? So there we find a connector in transition. We get in the paint. We try to talk a lot about paint patience. Here you can kind of see some spacing, right? Grant's trying to respace out. They kind of cut. If you take a look, we reshape the floor, okay? And immediately Rylan Griffin's going to hit Pringle, play to a get downhill, and then we spend a lot of time. Nate Oates is a beast. I mean, this guy's incredible on just teaching decision-making, right? It's like this seems simple. This exact action we work on all the time. I mean, 2-3 times a week, we are going to work on finding our roller decisions like that. We work on that all the time, that exact action. Okay, here you're going to see we find Moag A. He immediately finds a spacer, right? Trying to play to an uphill, right? Same thing. Here we get to a get, little pick and pop, hit and get threes. So these are just some of the concepts we want to play out of. And out of all the concepts that I listed, we don't do all of them, right? Like I had post splits on there. We don't post split. I think finding for your team a couple of concepts that best fit you and your personnel that you can teach at. I recommend starting with like 1 or 2 and then building it to maybe 4 or 6, depending on your team. And what I hear all the time from coaches are, my players aren't smart enough to do that. And I mean this in the best way possible. That's a cop-out. You know, it's like we as coaches put all these limitations on guys. And I know Jim is from Florida. I grew up in Florida. If anyone's ever been to Florida, if you ever walk around a lake, you're going to see alligators on the bank, right? And so if you take an alligator and you raise him in a tank, you stunt his growth. If you're put them in a confined environment, you stunt their growth. You put them in a lake, that sucker's growing to 12, 14 feet. We stunt the growth of our players all the time, right? And I encourage coaches to figure out how to best reach your players, teach your players, and get them to learn decision-making, because you can do it. Because I've had multiple players that coaches would say, you can't do that. And I hate the word when coaches, he's too stupid. Okay. It's not fair to refer to a player, to a human being, as that. He may have some limits. He may have some capacity of learning that isn't the same as other players, but right, we've got to figure out how to best teach them. And you can get guys to learn to play. Some players may be slower. Some players may pick it up quicker. Some you may have to put in different constraints, but you can teach guys to really play. And I've been able to do this at all different levels, at all different places that people said you can't, right? And I think we've got to put less restrictions on players and figure out how to better teach, because it's a cop-out. Okay, here's the next action for us where we try to hit the big, play to a get. Our connectors have the right to turn down the offense at any point, right? So like if they think they're going to get a turnover, we don't want to fight pressure. You want to blow up a DHO? Great. No problem. We've got a counter for that. Okay, we don't want to sit and hold and juke and try to get back and forth. Okay, we just want to play through. So here we play to the next action, get to an empty side, pick and roll. And we want our bigs. We try to tell our bigs or our connectors, because a connector could be a 3 that's not a great shooter, right? Like you're the point guard of the offense. Like figure out how to get the ball side to side, right? If a guy hasn't touched the ball in a while, turn someone down, play to the next one. Okay, this would be a hit and split, like little backdoor action on the next. Good hit and split there. These are just some of the concepts we really try to play out. Random flare. Okay, this would be a random flare again by Sears. So it's like once we get through the initial action, these are all just random concepts our guys are doing. They're hunting these opportunities. So our connectors are hunting opportunities to connect our offense. So here you'll see Mo Diabate, random off-ball flare. And so we really try to spend a lot of time teaching how to connect, when to connect, and we say random with purpose, random with spacing, random with unselfishness. And so it's got to meet that. And so is Grant Nelson's flare have purpose? Yes, based off where Mark Sears is, there's a purpose to it. Is the spacing good? He's got space to come off the flare, right? Is it unselfish? He's trying to get his teammate open. That's like exactly what we're trying to get our guys to do. We want everyone on our team thinking about how do I create for each other? Like I see basketball as a utopian environment of if we're all focused on how do we make the game more enjoyable for each other, everyone's going to have fun, right? And so here Nick Pringle does a hell of a job screening for Rylan Griffin. And Nick Pringle was excellent at this. He really bought into the concept of connecting for us. And then we've got guards and like Latrell Wrightsel screening for each other. We try to get Mark Sears screening for each other, right? We just kind of want them playing with that mentality of random off-ball screens. That's a random pin down. This will be another random pin down on the left side of the floor, right? Random step up with Stevenson. Estrada rejected it. Random pin down. Guard-to-guard drag. So this is all random. Like this is not a call. We don't know what they're doing. Estrada's going to go to a guard-to-guard drag. Pringle's going to flip it to a wide pin down. Get Sears downhill. Right. Off an offensive rebound, you'll kind of see a random back screen here. We run some out of our single action. We don't have anything. Okay, random ghost right out of the corner from the wings. We really try to play out of as well. We like random ghosts from the corners, from the wings. We also like guard-to-guard rolls. We love it when our wings come and set a pick and roll and roll on the hoop. All right, really good blender clip for us. Coach, I have till 7:45. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to skip some of this to get to some of our practice stuff just so you guys can see it. Actually, I'll let this play because this is like an epitome. Like this is a perfect clip of how we want to play, right? So it's like bunch of randomness, perfect spacing, right? Ball movement, Grant Nelson respaces, hit, tech a closeout, respace, extra, corner, drive it, respace, kick out, right? Three. That's what we want our guys thinking about. So how do we build it? Okay. So I'm gonna get to some of the skill work stuff that we'll do, just some of the quick breakdown. I'm gonna focus on only one concept, which is our uphills. Okay, so here you're going to see Cliff. He's got to make a decision. He's setting a screen. This would be a random wide pin down. If the corner's defender was pulled in, he'd set a random pin down. If not, we're going to roll. Okay, so here he rolls, he finishes. I know this is a little bit slow, but we're trying to get him to recognize opportunities to connect. Aiden Terrell comes off. The defender's pulled in. He opened up the wrong way. You kind of see him. He's hesitant. This was early on. If his defender's pulled in, we like just random pin downs. Doesn't have it, comes back up, plays to a gets to a keep. Okay. Similar situation here. Cliff. This is just like slow beginning teaching, right? Keep it, get downhill. Okay. I'm just going to get to the next phase. Now within our uphills, we want a lot of splits. So we try to teach cutting, right? So it's like if you're going to deny us and pressure us, on the upside, right, we're going to throw it on the downside. We're going to try to get downhill. You're going to deny that. We're going to work on our zero cuts. We try to get our players to understand with the mentality, and I apologize for what I'm about to say for any super defensive-minded coaches, but the defense is always wrong. It doesn't matter what they do. It's always wrong. It's just a matter of, is the offense disciplined enough to find the solution for how the defense is wrong? And good offense versus good defense, it's just a war of who's going to have the final better decision and the final better effort. Are you going to make the effort to make the extra swing? Are you going to have the better decision to get that extra kick out, to have that extra spacing? Or are you going to have the defensive decision to close out one extra time, take away airspace, no personnel? Like, it's a constant war, but whoever is more disciplined will win that war. So we've got the 0 cut if you deny it. So that's to our uphill toss, to our gets. We also like hitting splits or uphill splits, right? So here we go to set a split. We're going to work on the backdoor cut. And I'm going to give you guys some static environments of this stuff, just some of the stuff that we try to teach and a little bit of our breakdowns. Okay, hitting split, backdoor. Okay, then we're going to have the players. Now they're being denied. And instead of going to it, they're going to go set a split and slip. A little bit of a wide slip there. We want a little bit more straight line angle. And then we try to work on passing. And I tell you what, Cliff's passing and decisions, short rolls have, he's doing things that people told me he'd never be able to do. Okay, now, sorry, let me fast forward this. Okay, now this is like a shooting drill that we would just begin to get our 5 to think about concepts, and we want them thinking within shooting drills, player development, cutting drills, like what is he supposed to do? Okay, so Cliff is going to come off, pick and roll to a wide pin down. We're going to get a shot. Okay, now he's there. He's going to get to an uphill toss, play to a next. That guy's going to get a shot. We're going to hit Cliff. He's going to turn him down again, play to a next. Cliff's going to get a pick and pop. All 3 players get a shot. It's all concepts out of our offense, okay? And so this is how we try to build it, just to get our guys thinking about what are the movements, what are the process, how do we play, how do we create shots, right? How do we play to the next guy? Okay, so that would be one of our breakdown shooting drills. We're going to have coaches, everything is about competing. Right, so we'd have a team on one end, white versus red. They are competing, losers run. Here we got a wide, right, to an uphill split, shot. Come in, wide, hit, next action, turn them down, shot. Or give the DHO, shot. Okay, next action, pick and pop. Right, so all these are playing out of different situations where we want our big practicing how to connect the offense, okay, with next action, uphill tosses. How does he open up? What's the situation on the floor? Okay, we want them constantly thinking about this stuff. We try to do it within getting layups, getting threes on the cuts on the offense. Okay, I'm going to get to some more other practice film. Sorry. Okay, now, this would be some of our practice film in a static environment. So what do I mean? We've got our connector in the left corner. How do we create offense when we've lost the advantage? So we're practicing here when there is no advantage. What do we do? The 5 is in the corner, and his defender's usually going to sit at the rim because he's a non-shooter. We're going to throw it to him, and we're going to play out of actions. So we've worked on all this type breakdown stuff. Right, so we're going to find them. There's no advantage created on the pop, right? No one's got an advantage. Shell is intact. We're going to skip it, play uphill. Okay, now all this is decision-making and reads. Once we hit the 5, we're going to play uphill through all the concepts they do. They can do whatever they want. They can hit and get. They can hit and split. They can play to a next. Okay, all of this is the option, right, that they want. And so great decision by Diabate there. So we try to, people ask, how do we teach it? We want, a big thing for us, our players recognize the offense has stalled or we've lost the advantage. How do we recreate an advantage? What do we do when we're not having them in the blender and we don't have it? there would be a keep like what we worked on in the skill work. Here's another way to get to it. So that I'm going to show you guys static drills, then live drills, what it looks like within the flow. Okay, this would be a guard roll or big roll, skip it to the corner, uphill, play to a next. So on this one, same concept. We are hitting the connector in the corner. They are playing a next. So here it's really 4-on-4. We got 2 walk-ons in. They're not giving it to them. Now it's live. They can do whatever they want. Okay, so they got to make in all the reads that we did. So we're trying to create structure, right, by where we want them. What movements do we want them practicing? Okay, and then we're trying to create random once we create the structure, once we create the environments. Let me just fast forward this. So same thing, Cliff gets downhill, rim decision out of the pocket, play to the next, get guys downhill. Once we turn down the walk-on, these are all live reads, but we want them thinking about playing to the next and practicing that. So we try to create that environment that's really going to get reps. Okay, now here, this is live. Okay, it's a little bit more static environment. We try to practice throwing the ball to random spots on the floor with no advantage created, right? So you can see the shell intact. There is no advantage. We've got to throw the ball to a random spot, and they've got to create an advantage out of our concepts that we showed, right? So here we throw it to the corner, little backdoor right away, just like what we worked on in the skill work. Okay, this may be a half court into a set. Okay, now all this is random, right? Turn it down, backdoor, uphill, shot. Turn them down, keep it, get downhill. So none of this is static anymore. These guys are just doing whatever they want, playing out of our concepts. Little paint patience, kick out. Finding the connector, playing to a get. Not the best defense you've ever seen, but they don't have an advantage. You can see Cliff spacing, play to an uphill with Stevenson. Don't have it, find the connector, play to an uphill, downhill, roll, foul. Pick and roll, just like what we worked on. And the other clips don't have it, downhill, lob. Enter squad scrimmage, get downhill, get uphill. Same thing, playing off the random. Come down, 5's in the paint. Uphill to downhill. So this is how we're trying to play. We work multiple concepts this way, but this is how we try to teach guys to think like that. Because guys are coming from totally different environments and different styles of play, right? And it's, the way Cliff played last year and Houston Millette and Chris Youngblood, it's just different than how we played. But this is how we're trying to build our style of play within our practices and within teaching and building out decision-making. And it's been successful for us. We had a good showing against Wake. We're down 4 guys. And I thought our guys did a really good job. Like, this was a great clip. I love this. Because what does everyone want to do? Everyone wants to go to the ball. And LeBaron this guy's an unbelievable screener for a guard, right? So it's like, how do you sacrifice for your teammate? How do you get someone else open? Everyone else wants to chase us, which we love, right? On his own, he's just going to get his teammate open. Crushes Jaron Stevenson on the screen, opens it up for Cliff. Cliff gets a foul. Like, we really try to encourage self-sacrifice. Random wide pin down. Not a whole lot of purpose to that. Random stagger uphill split. Get your teammate open. So that's a lot of what we do and how we try to practice it. And some of the stuff that we work on and how we try to teach it. And
Coach, that's great, great stuff. Thank you. Just stay on just a second. I know you got a busy day. Some notes for you coaches taking notes. Notice the consistency of terminology. It's so important as we teach that we have consistency of terminology. Some terminology that coach used: advantage twos, advantage threes. Not every two is an advantage two. I love this. Two on the ball. If you don't solve that quickly, there's a sub. Rim pressure based on the strength of your team. Pressure offense. The outcome is you have to have perfect transition defense or the pipes are going to burst. Into a trigger in 6 seconds. Love this one. Shared cognition. We could talk about that all day as coaches. Shared cognition. Creators, spacers, connectors. Not using the word as a non-shooter. Paint patience. Teaching decisions. Teaching roller decisions. Stay away from the words not smart enough. Coach thinks, and I agree, that's a cop-out. Often we can stunt the growth of our players. We're hunting opportunities. Random purpose, random spacing, random unselfishness. Practice. This is gigantic. Practice when you have no advantage. What do you now do when the ball stops and you have no advantage? Practice that. Make offense more enjoyable for each other. This is an incredible one, coaches. Defense is always wrong. Just find the weakness. I've never heard that. It's brilliant. And always competing. Coach, it's not a coincidence that Nate Oates has been super successful. It's also not a coincidence that you've been super successful. The work you put into your craft is legendary. We hear it all over our profession, how hard you work, and always helping others too is something that I've noticed as I've gotten to know you in this brief period of time. So many people along the way that have helped you and so many people that you're helping. We'll be praying for you, Coach. We'll be praying for Alabama as we pray for every team across the country. But Coach, thank you. Thank you for your preparation. Thank you for the way that you coach. Thank you for the excellence that you're providing to Coach Oates and to college basketball. We're all learning from you daily. And we thank you a lot for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank everyone for your time. Once again, if you need something, my number, my cell phone are there. Please feel free to reach out to me.
And coaches, he calls back. Because I've called him and he calls right back. As soon as practice is over, he calls back, which that's great. Stay with us. I'm super excited about Jim Good. Jim is our regional director in the state of Florida, full of energy and passion for coaching. Going to talk with us, our Nations of Coaches character moment. Coach Good, take it away.
Thank you, Barclay. Man, I'm grateful. I'm humbled to share just a few minutes. And thank you, Ryan. Wow, Coach, you just gave us some gold. Appreciate the insight. Appreciate everything you're doing for the game. Already got a half a dozen texts, people hitting me up just saying thank you for inviting them to the webinar. So you're representing Florida well, Coach. So thank you. Hey, just transitioning a little bit, but keeping this common theme of offense. And I thought in my personal life and my spiritual life, if I can go back as an early coach in my 20s and 30s, to be more intentional with this offensive concept of prayer. I remember being challenged just a few years ago. Is my prayer life more like the spare tire or the steering wheel? I'll say that again, man. Is your prayer life, is my prayer life more like a spare tire or a steering wheel? See, the spare tires comes out in emergencies. It's kind of hidden. It's in the back. And that was my prayer life, running to God in emergencies, the big game, the healing, the financial crisis. But God was teaching me and challenging me. It needs to be my steering wheel, my driving force. And so I challenge you to evaluate your prayer life. I'm learning with prayer, it's simply having a conversation with God. And any healthy relationship involves communication. That's talking, that's listening. Healthy marriages, husband and wife, communication. Being a parent, children, communication. Staff to staff, coaches to player. Healthy relationships involve communication, and that communication leads to connection. True prayer is vertical connection. It's vertical confession, not just horizontal desire. Too many times in my life, and if you're honest with yourself, coach, my prayer life, and I'm embarrassed to say it, was a vending machine mentality. I'd put my quarters in. Well, not quarters now, but when I was a kid, put my quarters in, put my money in, use my Apple Pay, select the product, and boom, it comes down. And I get my product. And God forgive me. My prayer life was, all right, God, here's my prayer. Give it to me, my timing, exactly the way I want it. God had to teach me a lot about not being a vending machine mentality. I love our greatest playbook, God's word, our greatest head coach, Jesus. I'm sharing a verse from Luke. Luke 11:1 says this: one day, Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said to him, Lord, teach us to pray. Notice the disciples didn't ask, Lord, teach us to preach. Lord, teach us to heal. Teach us to do these miracles. No, the disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray. So Jesus must have been modeling prayer. Side note, we know as leaders, we know as coaches, more is caught than taught. More is caught than taught. Mark 1 says this: very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Wow, that became real to me about 7 years ago, 2018. I love the question Barclay asked a lot of our guests, what are some of your disciplines? And in 2018, I changed a morning discipline, and I began incorporating a 5 a.m. prayer walk. I was never a morning person, but I just felt convicted that I wanted to get real with God and connect, and this was the best time to do it. It's dark, it's quiet, and like Coach said, in Florida, I'm walking around the lakes, and I'm careful about the alligators, but I do run into a lot of ducks. But I've learned on these 5 a.m. prayer walks to love God. I'm learning to love God. I'm learning to serve people. I'm learning how to impact my wife, my family. And it has changed my life. I challenge you with this. John Mark Comer shares this. He's an author, a pastor. If you never read the book, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, he says this in our prayer life. It's talking to God. It's then talking with God. It leads to listening to God. And then finally, prayer is being with God. So, Coach, know we love you at Nations of Coaches. We are here to serve you. My prayer is that you can connect with God daily so you can love, you can serve, you can impact, you can encourage, you can discipline, and eventually you can live like Jesus. We love you. Thank you.
Coaches, if you'd like to talk to Jim Good more, you can find his email address on our website. How can we serve you, Coach? That's what we're designed and built to do. Let us know how we can serve you. One of the ways we want to serve you is we want to involve your wife in your ministry to players, in your ministry to a university. We have a Coaches' Wives Bible study that is moving along, super exciting. We're a couple weeks in, but you can still join. You can have your wife still join. And so get on our website, join our Coaches' Wives Bible study. It is elite and well done. How can we serve you? Send us an email. Contact us. If you would like to reach out to Coach Pannone, there's his Gmail address. If you would like to reach out to Nations of Coaches, please let me know. How can we serve you? How can we help you grow on the court and off the court? Really, really excited as we wind down our growth series, our preseason growth series. We have Jimmy Dykes next. You're going to enjoy visiting with Jimmy and hearing from Jimmy next week. He's incredible. Have a great week. Let us know how we can serve you. We're praying for you consistently, and we'll see you next week with Jimmy Dykes from ESPN. God bless.